Craving those African-American desserts from the 1970s we want back? They packed church halls and family kitchens with sugar, spice, and pure joy. How did we ever let those sweet traditions slip away? 7UP pound cake brought a bright splash of citrus to African-American dessert tables in the 1970s, turning a simple pantry cake into a potluck legend. Bakers creamed butter and sugar until light, then folded in eggs, flour, and a generous pour of lemon-lime soda that gave the batter an airy lift and a gentle sparkle. As it baked in a heavy bundt pan, the kitchen filled with a sunny scent that promised slices dense yet delicate, with a subtle fizz that only a sweet soda could provide. A drizzle of simple lemon glaze or a dusting of powdered sugar finished it off, but many families served it plain to showcase its golden crumb. At church suppers and neighborhood gatherings, this cake always drew a crowd, admired for its cheerful flavor and the clever use of a common drink. The 7UP pound cake was more than a dessert. It was a conversation starter and a symbol of creativity, proving that a splash of soda could turn an everyday recipe into a sweet memory worth sharing. Sock It to Me cake arrived at every celebration with a name that made people smile and a swirl of cinnamon sugar that made them swoon. The batter, rich with butter and sour cream, was poured into a bundt pan with a hidden ribbon of brown sugar, pecans, and cinnamon tucked through the center. While it baked, the filling melted into a fragrant vein, leaving the kitchen warm with the aroma of roasted nuts and spice. A quick glaze of powdered sugar and vanilla cooled into a delicate crust, creating a cake that looked as inviting as it tasted. Families loved serving thick slices during Sunday coffee hours, or after big dinners when laughter filled the room. The playful title, borrowed from a popular television catchphrase, gave the dessert a dash of 1970s flair, making it feel modern yet familiar. Sock It to Me cake was the perfect blend of showmanship and comfort, capturing the decades' love of bundt pans and crowd-pleasing sweets that never failed to delight everyone at the table. Pineapple upside-down cake dazzled with caramelized fruit and a retro glamour that felt just right for a Saturday night gathering or a holiday feast. Brown sugar and butter melted into a sticky glaze at the bottom of a cast-iron skillet, ready to cradle bright rings of canned pineapple and scattered maraschino cherries. A light vanilla batter was poured on top and baked until golden, allowing the juices to soak upward and infuse the cake with tropical sweetness. When the pan was flipped, the reveal always earned a gasp as the glossy fruit topping shimmered like stained glass. Served slightly warm, each slice combined tender crumb with a syrupy tang that no frosting could match. In African-American homes of the 1970s, it stood as a link between old-fashioned hospitality and modern convenience, using simple canned fruit to create a dessert of striking beauty. Pineapple upside-down cake reminded families that a little drama in presentation could turn an ordinary evening into a celebration, remembered long after the plates were cleared. Sweet potato pie carried the soul of family tradition to every holiday table, its earthy sweetness and warm spices making it an unshakable favorite. Roasted sweet potatoes were mashed to a silky smoothness, blended with brown sugar, butter, eggs, and a hint of vanilla and cinnamon. Poured into a flaky homemade crust, the filling baked until the surface set with a gentle wobble, and the scent of spice filled the house. Served with or without a dollop of whipped cream, it embodied the essence of Southern comfort and African heritage. In the 1970s, no Thanksgiving or Christmas felt complete without at least one of these pies cooling on the counter, ready to be sliced after a hearty dinner. Grandmothers passed down secret touches, maybe a splash of orange juice or a pinch of nutmeg, that made each family's version unique. Sweet potato pie was more than dessert. It was memory, history, and love baked into a single golden circle that brought everyone back for seconds and sometimes even breakfast the next day. Caramel layer cake stood tall and proud at birthdays, church anniversaries, and family reunions, its rich frosting gleaming like bronze. Bakers stacked 3 or 4 buttery yellow cake layers, each tender and moist, then spread warm, homemade caramel icing between them, letting it drip luxuriously down the sides. The icing required patience, cooked slowly with sugar, cream, and a little butter until it reached the perfect stage of deep amber sweetness. As it cooled, it formed a soft yet slightly chewy shell, creating a texture contrast that guests adored. Cutting the cake revealed ribbons of caramel clinging to each slice, a sight that made even adults clap their hands like children. In African-American kitchens of the 1970s, mastering caramel icing was a badge of honor and a skill passed lovingly through generations. Caramel layer cake was a dessert of celebration and craft, showing that with time, steady stirring, and a watchful eye, simple ingredients could become a centerpiece worthy of every milestone worth remembering. Banana pudding with vanilla wafers delivered pure comfort in a chilled dish that always seemed to disappear before anyone could ask for seconds. Ripe bananas were sliced thin and layered with crisp vanilla wafers and creamy custard made from milk, eggs, and a hint of vanilla bean. Each layer softened as the pudding rested, allowing the cookies to turn cake-like while the bananas infused the custard with gentle sweetness. A crown of meringue or whipped cream sealed the top, lightly browned in the oven or served fresh from the refrigerator depending on family tradition. Sunday dinners and church socials alike relied on this dessert to close the meal with something cool, sweet, and familiar. Children loved sneaking extra wafers, while adults traded stories over heaping spoonfuls. Banana pudding with vanilla wafers captured the heart of community gatherings in the 1970s, proving that the simplest combination of fruit, cream, and cookies could create a dessert experience that felt luxurious, comforting, and timeless, all at once. Red velvet cake with cream cheese frosting brought dramatic color and smooth tang to every celebration during the 1970s. The batter, tinted with just enough cocoa and a splash of red food coloring, baked into striking crimson layers that contrasted beautifully with the snowy frosting. Cream cheese whipped with butter and powdered sugar provided a silky finish that balanced the cake's subtle chocolate flavor with gentle tang. Each slice looked like a piece of art on a plate, making it a favorite for church anniversaries, wedding receptions, and holiday feasts. The recipe's origins carried whispers of both Southern tradition and a growing national fascination with bold presentation. Serving red velvet cake was a statement of style and hospitality, a way to show guests that a little extra effort could create something unforgettable. Families treasured the excitement it brought to the dessert table, proving that a dash of color and a touch of cream cheese could transform a simple cake into an icon of joy and celebration. Coconut sheet cake was the chilled showstopper of warm weather socials, a snowy white vision that cooled the hottest summer evenings. A light sponge cake baked in a large rectangular pan provided the base, while a creamy coconut frosting made with evaporated milk and sweetened shredded coconut blanketed the top like fresh snow. After chilling, the cake absorbed the frosting's rich flavor, turning each bite into a tender tropical treat. Served in generous squares at backyard picnics or family reunions, it delivered sweetness without heaviness, perfect after barbecue or spicy foods. Guests admired the way the coconut caught the light, sparkling like tiny crystals as the cake was sliced. In African-American households of the 1970s, coconut sheet cake became a seasonal favorite that signaled celebration and hospitality. Its simplicity and ability to feed a crowd made it a practical choice, while its striking appearance ensured it was remembered long after the last square disappeared from the platter. Lemon chess pie shone with bright flavor and a silky custard that made every bite feel like sunshine. A simple filling of fresh lemon juice, sugar, eggs, and butter baked into a single crust until the top developed a delicate golden sheen and the center set to a creamy, tangy perfection. The pie cooled to a gentle wobble that invited quick slicing and generous servings. Families loved how the dessert used basic ingredients yet delivered a sophisticated citrus punch, ideal for cutting through rich dinners or heavy holiday spreads. Lemon chess pie brought a welcome spark to church luncheons, family reunions, and Sunday suppers throughout the 1970s. Its zesty aroma filled kitchens with a hint of spring even in the heart of winter, offering comfort and brightness in equal measure. This pie proved that elegance could come from everyday staples, turning lemons and sugar into a memorable finale that refreshed the spirit and left guests asking for the recipe to share and cherish. Buttermilk pie wrapped simple pantry ingredients into a velvety custard that tasted far richer than its modest origins. Eggs, sugar, butter, and tangy buttermilk whisked together into a smooth filling that baked in a single crust until the surface browned lightly and the center set to a creamy consistency. The slight tang of the buttermilk balanced the sweetness, making each bite both comforting and intriguing. African American families in the 1970s valued the recipe for its thrift and reliability, knowing that even in lean times a luxurious dessert was within reach. Served warm or chilled, plain or with a scattering of fresh berries, buttermilk pie delighted guests without demanding complicated techniques or expensive ingredients. Its enduring charm lay in the way it brought people together around something humble yet special. Each slice carried the quiet satisfaction of resourcefulness and tradition, a reminder that the heart of hospitality often rests in the simplest, most lovingly prepared dishes shared at the end of a long meal. Peach cobbler with biscuit topping was the heart of many summer evenings in African American homes of the 1970s, a dessert that tasted like sunshine caught in a pan. Juicy peaches were tossed with brown sugar, lemon juice, and a whisper of cinnamon until their natural syrup began to bubble. Over this golden fruit, a blanket of soft biscuit dough was dropped in spoonfuls, each one browning to a tender crust as the oven worked its magic. The scent of warm fruit and butter drifted through open windows, calling neighbors to stop by for a plate. Served with a drizzle of fresh cream or a scoop of homemade ice cream, every bite balanced tart peach with sweet, flaky topping. Families loved how the cobbler came together from simple pantry staples yet felt luxurious enough for company. It carried the legacy of Southern kitchens into a modern decade, proving that when peaches are ripe and the air is warm, nothing brings people together faster than the promise of a bubbling pan of cobbler shared straight from the oven. Apple brown. Betty brought Depression-era thrift into the lively kitchens of the 1970s, reminding families that humble ingredients could create extraordinary comfort. Thinly sliced apples were layered with buttered breadcrumbs mixed with brown sugar, cinnamon, and a touch of nutmeg, building sweet and spiced tiers that baked to a golden finish. The slow bake softened the apples until they melted into a fragrant filling while the crumbs on top crisped to a caramelized crunch. Served warm with a splash of cream, the dessert offered deep satisfaction on cool autumn nights or after hearty Sunday suppers. Children loved breaking through the crunchy surface to reach the tender fruit beneath, and adults cherished the way it stretched a few apples into a crowd-pleasing finale. Apple brown. Betty stood as a bridge between generations, a dessert born of scarcity yet beloved in times of plenty, proving that flavor and comfort often come from the simplest acts of layering, baking, and sharing with the people who matter most. Chocolate mayonnaise cake surprised newcomers with its secret ingredient, but won them over with every moist bite, becoming a budget-friendly miracle in the 1970s. Pantry staples of flour, cocoa powder, and sugar were whisked with a generous spoonful of mayonnaise, whose eggs and oil gave the cake a tender crumb without extra butter. Baked in a simple rectangular pan, it emerged dark and velvety, filling the kitchen with a rich cocoa aroma. A quick frosting of powdered sugar and milk or a swirl of chocolate buttercream turned it into a dessert fit for birthdays, bake sales, or late-night treats. Families loved how the recipe saved money while delivering a texture rivaling any fancy bakery cake. Guests often guessed at the secret but rarely believed it, which made serving it even more fun. Chocolate mayonnaise cake reminded everyone that ingenuity and a bit of courage could transform an ordinary weeknight into something indulgent, proving that good taste does not need expensive ingredients when creativity leads the way. Pecan praline bars brought a taste of New Orleans flair to potlucks and bake sales, filling kitchens with the warm perfume of brown sugar and butter. A buttery shortbread crust was pressed into a pan and baked until just firm before being topped with a gooey mixture of chopped pecans, cream, and dark brown sugar. As it baked again, the topping bubbled into a caramel-like layer that set into chewy sweetness with a hint of nutty crunch. Each square delivered the flavor of classic Southern pralines in an easy-to-share form, perfect for coffee hours and church gatherings. Children loved licking the sticky syrup from their fingers, while adults reached for second and third pieces without apology. In the 1970s, these bars offered a bridge between candy making and home baking, capturing the indulgent spirit of Louisiana without the need for a candy thermometer. Pecan praline bars proved that a little southern magic and a handful of pecans could turn an ordinary afternoon into a festival of sweetness worth every bite. Butter pecan ice cream was the homemade reward for hot summer nights and backyard fish fries, a frozen treat that carried a quiet elegance. Fresh cream and milk were cooked gently with sugar until smooth before being churned with toasted pecans and a splash of vanilla. The slow churning created a dense, velvety texture, while the nuts added buttery crunch in every spoonful. Families often gathered around hand-crank ice cream makers, taking turns turning the handle as laughter filled the evening air. When the lid finally lifted, the sight of pale golden ice cream studded with glossy pecans drew cheers from children and adults alike. Served in simple bowls or between two cookies for an impromptu sandwich, it offered both cool relief and a taste of celebration. In African American communities of the 1970s, butter pecan ice cream became a symbol of shared effort and shared joy, proving that homemade desserts always taste sweeter when everyone has a hand in bringing them to life. Hummingbird cake rose to fame from southern black kitchens where bananas, pineapple, and warm spices met in a towering creation crowned with cream cheese frosting. Mashed ripe bananas and crushed pineapple gave the batter moisture and gentle sweetness, while cinnamon added a soft heat. Chopped pecans folded through the mix brought welcome crunch. Baked in layers and cooled, the cake was frosted with rich cream cheese icing that clung to every curve. Each slice revealed flecks of fruit and nuts, offering a tropical aroma that felt both festive and comforting. This cake graced wedding receptions, church anniversaries, and milestone birthdays throughout the 1970s, admired for its bold flavor and dramatic presentation. Families cherished it as a special occasion dessert that celebrated abundance and creativity. Hummingbird cake embodied the generous spirit of Southern hospitality, proving that fruit, spice, and a careful hand could produce a showpiece worthy of the grandest table while still carrying the warmth of a lovingly baked homemade treat. Molasses spice cookies carried the deep flavors of Gullah and Low-Country tradition into modern kitchens, each chewy bite echoing centuries of coastal heritage. Dark molasses blended with brown sugar to create a dough rich with warmth, while cinnamon, ginger, and cloves filled the air as the cookies baked. Rolled in coarse sugar before hitting the oven, they emerged crackled and fragrant, their centers soft and slightly sticky. The taste balanced sweet and spicy with a lingering note of caramel that made them irresistible, alongside a glass of cold milk or a cup of tea. In the 1970s, these cookies connected generations, offering a tangible link to the flavors of ancestors who baked with what the land and sea provided. Families shared them during holiday gatherings or quiet evenings alike, savoring the way tradition lived on in every spice-filled bite. Molasses spice cookies proved that a simple treat can carry profound meaning, turning an ordinary snack into a celebration of history, memory, and enduring sweetness. Sweet potato pound cake blended the rich earthiness of its namesake vegetable with the classic heft of a traditional pound cake, creating a dessert that felt both familiar and new. Roasted sweet potatoes were pureed and folded into a batter of butter, sugar, eggs, and warm spices, giving the cake a golden hue and moist crumb. Baked in a heavy bundt pan, it emerged fragrant with cinnamon and nutmeg, the crust forming a delicate, sugary edge. Served plain, dusted with powdered sugar, or drizzled with a light glaze, it fit equally well at Sunday dinners or holiday feasts. Families prized the recipe for its ability to stretch a single vegetable into a show-stopping centerpiece. In African American households of the 1970s, sweet potato pound cake stood as a reminder of resourcefulness and tradition, turning a humble root into a dessert worthy of celebration. Each slice offered comfort and pride, proving that heritage and innovation could live side by side on the family dessert table without ever losing their soulful heart. Chess squares, often called gooey butter bars, were the sticky sweet treasures of church bake sales and weekend coffee hours. A simple base of yellow cake mix formed the bottom layer, pressed into a pan to create a soft crust. The topping combined cream cheese, powdered sugar, and eggs into a rich custard that baked into a slightly crisp surface while staying deliciously gooey beneath. Cut into neat squares once cooled, they delivered a sweet rush that paired perfectly with strong coffee or a cold glass of milk. Children loved the melt-in-your-mouth texture, while adults appreciated the effortless preparation and crowd-pleasing flavor. In the 1970s, these bars spread quickly through community cookbooks and potluck tables, their irresistible combination of convenience and indulgence making them a near-constant presence. Chess squares proved that simplicity could be decadent, offering a dessert so rich and satisfying that one bite was never enough, ensuring their place in the memories of countless family gatherings and joyful kitchen conversations. Cherry Jubilee. Trifle turned ordinary ingredients into an elegant finale for church suppers and festive dinners. Layers of light sponge cake soaked with cherry liqueur were alternated with creamy custard and sweet cherries simmered in a buttery syrup. Whipped cream crowned the top in generous swirls, creating a dessert that dazzled the eye as much as the palate. The cherries glistened like jewels beneath the creamy layers, and each spoonful delivered a balance of tart fruit, rich custard, and airy cake. Hosts loved how the trifle could be prepared ahead of time, allowing flavors to meld and gatherings to flow without fuss. In African American communities of the 1970s, this dessert added a touch of sophistication to potlucks and holiday tables while still using accessible ingredients. Cherry Jubilee Trifle embodied the decade's spirit of celebration and creativity, proving that even a simple glass bowl could hold a masterpiece of color, taste, and family tradition ready to impress every guest who lifted a spoon. Chocolate meringue pie brought a touch of elegance to African American dinner tables of the 1970s, its glossy peaks of toasted meringue hiding a silky chocolate custard beneath. The filling began with whole milk warmed slowly on the stove, blended with sugar, cocoa powder, and egg yolks until it thickened to a rich, velvety texture. A flaky homemade crust provided the base, sturdy enough to cradle the warm chocolate without becoming soggy. Once poured and cooled slightly, the pie was crowned with a cloud of whipped egg whites sweetened with sugar, carefully spread to the edges to seal the filling. A few minutes in the oven turned the meringue golden brown, creating a dessert that shimmered like a jewel when brought to the table. Each slice revealed the satisfying contrast of airy topping and decadent center, a harmony of textures that delighted guests at Sunday dinners and church socials. Chocolate meringue pie was both comfort and celebration, a showpiece that proved skill and love in every bite. Prune upside-down cake offered a moist, gently spiced reward for families who valued thrift as much as flavor, a dessert beloved by elders who remembered leaner times. Sticky caramel made from brown sugar and butter lined the bottom of a cast-iron skillet, followed by plump prunes soaked in warm water until tender. A simple batter of flour, eggs, and a touch of cinnamon was poured over the fruit and baked until the house filled with a deep, fruity aroma. When inverted, the cake revealed glistening prunes coated in caramel syrup, their sweetness balanced by subtle spice. Served warm with a dollop of whipped cream, it was a taste of old-world resourcefulness carried into a new decade. Families cherished how a humble dried fruit could create such richness, reminding everyone that tradition never goes out of style. Prune upside-down cake kept history alive at the dessert table, turning what some considered ordinary into something extraordinary with every dense, flavorful slice. Cornmeal. Pound cake carried the rustic charm of traditional Southern sweets into the lively kitchens of the 1970s, offering a dessert both hearty and refined. Fine cornmeal joined flour, sugar, butter, and fresh eggs to create a batter with gentle grit and warm golden color. Baked slowly in a heavy bundt pan, the cake developed a firm crust while remaining moist within, filling the house with the aroma of sweet corn and vanilla. A light lemon glaze or simple dusting of powdered sugar highlighted its natural flavor without masking its earthy character. Families appreciated how the recipe honored generations of corn-based desserts while embracing the pound cake tradition. Served with seasonal fruit or enjoyed plain alongside coffee, It provided comfort that felt rooted in history and hospitality. Cornmeal pound cake was a reminder of resilience and creativity, turning everyday staples into a treat worthy of celebration and proving that the most humble grains can yield something rich and unforgettable. Carrot pineapple cake combined the natural sweetness of carrots with the tropical brightness of crushed pineapple, creating a moist spice cake that delighted every gathering. Grated carrots added subtle texture, while cinnamon and nutmeg filled the kitchen with warm fragrance as the layers baked. Pineapple kept the crumb tender and infused each bite with a sunny tang. Once cooled, the cake was slathered with tangy cream cheese frosting, its smooth richness balancing the gentle spice beneath. Chopped pecans or walnuts sprinkled on top added crunch and a hint of earthiness, making every slice a celebration of flavor and contrast. In African-American homes of the 1970s, carrot pineapple cake was a favorite for birthdays, church anniversaries, and Sunday dinners alike, admired for its balance of wholesome ingredients and decadent finish. Each piece felt generous and festive, a testament to the decades' love of bold flavors and abundant hospitality. This cake proved that vegetables and fruit together could create a dessert as indulgent as any chocolate confection. Fried peach. Hand pies were the portable sweets that filled church bazaars and summer block parties with the irresistible smell of hot pastry and fruit. Fresh peaches were simmered with sugar and a hint of cinnamon until they formed a thick golden filling. Circles of dough were spooned with the peach mixture, folded into half moons, and sealed with careful crimping. Each pie was fried until the crust blistered into a crisp golden shell, locking in the syrupy fruit. Children lined up for them, eager to hold the warm treats wrapped in paper towels that quickly soaked through with fragrant juices. Adults carried them home for late-night snacks or slipped them into lunchboxes for the next day. In the 1970s, these pies represented community and craftsmanship, transforming a seasonal fruit into a handheld dessert that needed no plate or fork. Fried peach hand pies brought a festival feeling to ordinary days, turning simple ingredients into something joyfully decadent and wonderfully portable. Blackberry dumplings turned backyard harvests into a dessert that captured the deep purple beauty of ripe berries. Fresh blackberries simmered with sugar and a splash of lemon juice until they released their juices, creating a fragrant syrup. Spoonfuls of sweet biscuit dough were dropped into the bubbling fruit, puffing as they cooked and soaking up the dark berry flavor. The dumplings grew tender, yet kept a slight chew, offering a satisfying contrast to the rich sauce. Served warm in deep bowls, sometimes with a drizzle of cream, this dessert combined the comfort of cobbler with the heartiness of country dumplings. Families in the 1970s loved how it transformed simple berries into a dessert big enough to feed a crowd. Blackberry dumplings were both rustic and elegant, proving that a pot of fruit and a handful of dough could yield something that tasted like summer itself. An edible memory of gathering berries under the sun and sharing the rewards with everyone at the table. Peanut butter sheet cake was a crowd-pleasing dessert that traveled easily from school cafeterias to community potlucks, bringing nutty richness in every slice. Smooth peanut butter was melted into a warm mixture of butter and milk before being whisked into flour and sugar to create a thick, fragrant batter. Baked in a large rectangular pan, it emerged golden and tender, its surface ready for a quick pour of warm peanut butter glaze that seeped into the cake as it cooled. Each bite delivered a deep roasted flavor balanced by gentle sweetness, a treat that satisfied children and adults alike. The sheet cake format made serving simple, ensuring everyone received a generous square without fuss. In African-American kitchens of the 1970s, peanut butter sheet cake stood as a practical yet indulgent dessert, perfect for feeding big families or lively gatherings. It proved that the humble peanut could create a cake as memorable as any fancy confection, offering warmth and comfort with every moist forkful. Old-fashioned tea cakes tasted like quiet afternoons and childhood visits to Grandma's house, their soft sugar cookie texture carrying a gentle vanilla fragrance. Butter, sugar, and fresh eggs were beaten together until light, then mixed with flour and a hint of nutmeg to create a dough that chilled before baking. Rolled and cut into simple rounds, the cakes puffed slightly as they baked, filling the kitchen with a sweet, buttery aroma. Neither overly sweet nor bland, they struck a perfect balance that invited dunking in tea or milk. Families treasured these cookies for their simplicity and the way they invited conversation, often baking them in large batches to share with neighbors. In the 1970s, tea cakes were a quiet staple of African American hospitality, a link to centuries of tradition. Each soft bite carried the comfort of home and the memory of loving hands, reminding everyone that sometimes the most unassuming desserts are the ones that linger longest in the heart. Tell us which 1970s African American dessert you crave most. Drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe to keep these soulful sweets alive.